L's. We all take them, but honestly, 9 times out of 10, most people do not want to talk about them. But I want to change that today. I really want to dive into one of the biggest L's that I took in the past, I would say 3 years. And trust and believe I've taken more L's than this, but this one just sticks out as one of the L's that I just cringe when I really think about it. It's your boy DJ Richie Sky, back with another video. Thank you for tuning into the channel where we talk travel, lifestyle, and making money online. I think that they go hand in hand, to be very honest with you, because the reason that I'm able to travel is because I don't want to work when I travel, to be honest with you. And being a content creator, it can be a really, really challenging thing to truly take a vacation when the basis for your revenue generation comes from content creation. So I've also made it a point to develop passive streams of income. And now one of my biggest things is also teaching you guys how to make passive streams of income so that you can travel and live the life that you truly want to live and do the things that you truly want to do. So my goal is to get you to the point where you're making at least $1,000 per day so that you can truly live the life that you want to live and have financial freedom. However, before I got to this point where I'm at here, I tried several things. And, a part of me felt like, again, I was taking these trips. And what I would realize is that if I wasn't making content, then I wasn't generating any revenue. So I started to think, how can I make passive income? And, honestly, passive income isn't really all that passive. It's really a form of active income initially that you can sort of finagle into something passive, right? So there's a little bit of active work that you have to do in order to make passive income or to make income truly passive, right? So for me, one of those things that was so sexy to me was getting into the Airbnb business. I mean, at one point in time, Airbnb was like the thing that everybody was talking about. Everybody I knew was getting into it in some way, shape, or form. And for me, I thought that I needed to get into it as well. I wanted to become a part of that. But how? Right? Because I was looking at purchasing property in Wintergreen. So if you're not familiar with the Maryland area, Wintergreen is a great sort of ski area, but in the summer, it's still a vibe. It's in the mountains, and there are plenty of people that have houses and homes that they, put on Airbnb in that area. So there are also people that live there, but a good majority of the people will actually rent out those homes for the seasons. So I began exploring that aspect, but I was also thinking, I really want to ensure that I purchase my own home first. So I began to sort of like withdraw from that situation. And then I ended up finding a home, to be honest with you, in Virginia. It was also in a mountain region that was near I don't want to call it like a state park, but it was just a popular ski region. And I was ready to put a down payment on the home. I had literally gotten to the point where, we had done all of the loans and stuff like that. And we were at the finish line when at the end, I pulled out of it. I had some family things going on, and I just kind of wanted to make sure that my finances were available in case I needed to, in any way, shape, or form, help my family. So I pulled out of it. And then later on that summer, I discovered Airbnb Arbitrage. Now, what is that? So that is essentially where you go into a rental contract with the owner of a home who knows that you plan on renting the home out for Airbnb. Some people do this with apartments, and some people do it with apartments and the landlords have no idea that it's being done. Some people do this with houses and the landlords don't even know that it's being done. But in this instance, I had found a company that essentially helps other people find Airbnb properties, well, find properties that you can actually rent and then Airbnb with their help. So the entry fee to do this was $7,000. So I said, okay, great. This is going to be awesome, because the individuals that were a part of the program, many of them were owning up to 20 or so Airbnb properties. Now, they didn't start that way, but they definitely had worked themselves up to that point. So I was like, oh, this sounds right up my alley. It's a community of people who know what they're doing. They've been doing this for a long time. You know, I can see the proof. I can see what they're doing. This is going to be great. So I signed on with them, I paid my money, and I was off to the races. So it took a minute to find property because we were looking in the Virginia area and the Maryland area, and the properties that we were looking at, they had to have a certain criteria. And I just didn't feel like any of them met the criteria that they had suggested that the houses have. So I said, okay, you know, I'll wait. And finally, about 8 houses became available in a community in Orlando, Florida. I said, this is going to be perfect. So I was able to get one of those Airbnb properties, well, rent one of the homes. I paid my deposit on the home. I think it was in November. And then I signed the lease at that point, and I was going to begin renting the home in January. So I said, boom, this is great. Now, I had also found, well, I didn't find them. They recommended a property management company, because for me, I wasn't going to be willing to do that because I had already had so many things on my plate. That was probably one of the first mistakes that I made in this entire process, was not trying to run it myself, to really learn everything that I needed to learn that would go into, you know, the things that go into, you know, getting a new apartment or a new house, setting all of those things up, and, you know, doing it from afar was also a different beast for me, learning about that process. And then also learning that, you know, you have to still manage the property management company. And the way that this particular property management company worked was they bill me every week, right? So they work on a weekly billing system, which worked for their company. But what that means is whether you get a booking or not, you're still paying them. So they are not really incentivized to work as hard, although I will say that I did feel like they were working. But again, you want a in my opinion, I feel like you want a property management company that only gets paid when you get paid. And I think that is a better incentive to make sure that things are running smoothly, personally. And again, I did love the company. I love the individuals that I worked with within the company, and they got things done relatively quickly, but there was still a lot that I had to manage. There was a lot that I had to approve. There was a lot that I had to communicate. I remember getting a call that first week that we were open for business, that first Friday, and it was a call at 10:30 p.m. and it was from literally someone was trying to check in, but there was a mix-up with the start date of the reservation, and it just was a nightmare. So on a Friday night at 10:30 p.m., there I am on the phone trying to ensure that this person was able to either get into the Airbnb or that we canceled them. We ended up having to cancel them, and then they left us a horrible review. So we're starting off horrible, right? So because I'm an aggressive person, I ended up getting a second and a third Airbnb property. Now, this property was located in Connecticut. This was someone who was moving from Connecticut, I believe, to Florida. and the property was technically two properties in one. So it was the main house, and then they had like this upstairs unit that you could actually access from the ground. So there was like a stairwell that led up to the second unit. It was kind of like they had remodeled an attic and made it into an apartment. Again, I've not seen either of these properties, but that is not uncommon in Airbnb arbitrage. So and some people may say that was your second big mistake, but to be honest with you, I was listening to the people in the program and they were successful. So I have this same property management company managing these two other properties. So what does that mean? That means an extra $200 a week, because I think it was about $900, like $99 per week. So about $100 per week per property. And so now I have three properties, so that's $300 per week. Okay, so times 4. Do the math, right? So that's every month. Mind you, that's whether or not there's a person in that property. Also, that means you also have to set up the property, and it takes time to set up a property. The property in Connecticut needed to be fully furnished. So I was recommended a sort of furniture design person, and they would have needed it would have cost me about $20K to furnish that entire apartment. Now, well, the house, the bottom level of the house, so it was 2 floors to the house. So that was like 5 bedrooms that needed to be furnished, along with a living room, a kitchen. The upstairs unit was available to rent, but the first person that ended up renting it had a lot of complaints and a lot of issues. Again, this is me going into it sight unseen. So all of this is happening, and I'm working still like doing my normal content creation stuff, trying to manage several aspects of that, and also my home life, right? And what I've come to realize is during that process, I don't want to be at the beck and call of Airbnb customers or to the property management company at 9:30, 12 p.m. There's a lot to manage when people are checking in, because oftentimes people are checking in at night. So it was just a lot. And even if you think that there is going to be a property management company that handles everything, you still must manage the property management company, because there are things that need to be approved when you're starting a new property, such as buying new things that need to be furnished in the property itself. So it was just a lot, man. And I remember thinking to myself, this is overwhelming to me. Maybe if the property was here in the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, it would have been a little bit easier for me, because I would have been able to do a lot of things and get there myself. But you're relying on a third party to manage things, and then they are also not on site either. So they're having to hire people to do things that need to be done, and you can't see what's being done. So think about it like this. You hire a property management company to manage the property, but they're located in another state. So they're having to hire individuals and cleaners and that sort of thing. And no one's ever able to really see the property, right? So I can't see what the guest sees when they check in. I have no idea what's going on. And so that seemed to work for a lot of the people in the program, but it did not work for me, because I am someone who, when there is a customer complaint or if there's an issue, I'm very much like, I want to be able to handle it right then and there, because I've checked into Airbnbs before that have not been up to par. I've checked into hotels before that have not been up to par, and I want the issue resolved right away. So I know I want the same for anyone who is checking into a property that is in any way, shape, or form affiliated with me. So I ended up having a slight mental breakdown in about February, trying to manage all three properties and do my own work. I think we were also flipping a home at the time here, like in the Maryland area. So there was just so much happening. I ended up losing, I think, about at least $9,000 because I ended up pulling out of the contract with the design company because I ended up having to just say to the Connecticut property owner, I can't do this. It's too much. Thankfully, he was able to allow me to get out of the rental contract. I just had to pay like an additional 2 months to get out of it. He was awesome up with that, and I honestly couldn't be more thankful. But the Florida property, I ended up handing it off to my assistant because she was really wanting to get into that market as well. And I told her, I was like, this is overwhelming. This is completely out of my wheelhouse. And she's a bit more organized, and I operate on the creative space, right? That's where I thrive. But the administrative space is not my strong suit. So for me, I knew at that point that this isn't something that was for me. And so she ended up getting out of the business at the end of the lease in November. But I just remember like the entire process was just really, really stressful for me. And to think about the amount of income that I lost in that process is like, when I think back on it, I'm just like, oh, I regret it so much. But I also learned a lot in the process as well, right? It was a risk. It was an investment risk. And investing, you have to know that you may lose out on your income. You may lose out on that money that you invested. And I did. But again, I also learned some very valuable lessons. One of the biggest lessons for me was that when I do go into a new business endeavor, I like to be able to control all aspects of it. So creating a course and managing the course, I can also have full control over the quality. I can also make sure that I am helping the students who take the course. I am there for them. I am a part of the process 100%. And it's something that I can touch easily. It's not something that's located in another state that I don't have a part of, but it also really is something that is, it truly can be passive for you. This is why I'm so insistent on people creating passive I will say active passive streams of income, because there is some creation involved in it. But that's also why I wanted to create a course that was really kind of a done with you, with done for you templates to really make it easy. I tell people this all the time. You don't need to do all of these business things. You just need to find the one product or service that you can monetize and that you can easily manage, and set up a system so that it works for you. And that is what I learned from that experience. So for those of you guys who are interested in learning how to do that, I've created a course. It's called the ebook in a day course. It's in the description of this video. It is a path to financial freedom for me. It is creating a digital product. It is done with you. And there's a done for you template so that you can create your first digital product with ease. And I teach you how to set up a system so that you can earn income passively, so that you can live the life that you truly want to live. Yes, we may take a couple of L's along the way, but if we look at them as learning lessons and as stepping stones, it can be totally life-changing. So that's one of my L stories. I thought I'd share it with you guys today on this Good Sunday. I hope that you are about to enjoy a great start to the week, and subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. I think it is through sharing stories that we learn how to connect with people, because we all face and take these L's in our own individual ways. And so I think when we share them, I think we build connections with other people. So subscribe to the channel, hit that like button if you like this type of content, and I will catch you in the next video.